Hey guys, I've just had a little thought. Tony Stark would not survive Iron Man without the Tesseract. Hmm, that's a bit of a bold statement. So let's run it through step by step by step in my mind. Step 1. The Tesseract was found by Hydra. Hydra was defeated for the first time by Captain America. Captain America, the Tesseract was dropped and found by Howard Stark. Now, here's where the interesting things happen. Howard Stark gets to study the Tesseract. Now, why am I saying that the. Oh, how should I put it? The arc reactor wouldn't exist without the Tesseract. So, you have the Tesseract, you're studying it. We are talking just around the middle of the Second World War. Just nearing the end of the Second World War, I'd say. You still have the Tesseract, you're head of one of the main founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you can use the Tesseract as you please. Now, you study the Tesseract, you're a genius, you're Howard Stark, of course, and then you basically make the arc reactor, which you plug the Tesseract in, and it runs a whole city block. Now, after Howard Stark's death, which is 1991, the arc reactor gets replaced the Tesseract gets replaced with a nuclear device. Now, I'd say palladium. Now, here's the interesting thing. I also think that. Well, now I'm going to leave that for another video. Howard Stark studies the Tesseract and works out how a nuclear reactor works. He understands that basically the Tesseract is emitting a lot of energy that he can put into the arc reactor sort of hub kind of thing in the middle of the arc reactor and cause a really powerful effect. The Tesseract gets taken away from him after he dies in 1991, and Tony Stark doesn't know about it. I don't think he would. There's no reason. He just knows, oh, that arc reactor was a failed experiment. I think the experiment was to put the Tesseract in it, Tony, but you didn't know about that at the time. Or did you? If you notice a point in Avengers Assemble, or The Avengers, the holograms, when Tony looks at the briefing to begin with, before. Basically, when you first see Tony Stark in The Avengers, is when you see him pick up basically the Tesseract and he looks at it, it looks just like. And I just thought. And I've been thinking about this for about most of today, and it's just like, why am I thinking about this? Why am I thinking about Tony Stark holding this Tesseract? And then it clicks. I recently rewatched Iron Man 2, where Howard Stark basically says to Tony, you have the ability to do what I can't do in my time. What he couldn't do in his time when he had access to the Tesseract was create the new element that he wanted to create. I think the Tesseract gave the blueprints for a new element. The new element is inside the Tesseract. And my next video will explain something else. Subscribe if you want to know where I think Jarvis came from. If you're wondering through the logic, this should be interesting. But I will, and it also, it has a really funny possibility, because I think this could get a lot more interesting. So you have the Tesseract, you create the arc reactor, you have your son, and you know your son's going to actually need space to do this. So you build him his house, the mansion that you see in Iron Man 1, 2, and gets destroyed, unfortunately, in 3. Now, there is something about that place that really just doesn't make sense to me until I realised it watching Iron Man 2 again. Howard Stark knew he'd do this because there is conduits and things that don't make sense in that house. It's just like, why is there this strange ass conduit in the middle of the hall, sort of thing? And it's just like, oh right, the conduit is to a power source. There is no power source. It's off the grid. I think it's off the grid. I'm not saying that that house doesn't have its own arc reactor, but I think that connection that you see Tony Stark playing with in Iron Man 2, where he's like setting up the particle accelerator to create the new element, was put in there as a direct link from his house to the office where the arc reactor is. Now, why do you need that much power to create the new element? So basically, the metallurgy to create the new element wasn't there in Howard Stark's time. Howard Stark created the power source. Tony Stark had the metallurgy and the technologies to do it. Yeah, and why? How did Howard Stark come up with this new element? Well, we're back to the Tesseract again. You're studying the Tesseract and it's coming up with this new element. It's in the Tesseract. It's emitting it. That is the new element that is inside the Mark 5. The Mark 5 suit. Basically the triangular arc reactor that stays with them to Avengers. Yeah, that is so interesting, because I just thought about it. It's just like, wait, hang on, where's this new element coming from? And then you go back to Captain America and go, oh, so Howard Stark had I was about to call it the Intersect. That's a completely different franchise. Well, it's not a franchise, but you know what I mean. So that the Tesseract, Tony Stark owes the Tesseract his life. And I think Tony Stark owes Hydra his life, because let's put it this way, if Hydra lost and the plane wasn't there and Howard Stark never got the Tesseract, Tony Stark would be dead, because there would be no arc reactor in the MCU. This is where I think the arc reactor comes from. The big arc reactor at his factory, Tony Stark's factory, is basically a test base for what Dr. Selvig was trying to do at the beginning of the Avengers. Dr. Selvig was trying to make the arc reactor idea work. Howard Stark had the arc reactor, which was basically you plug the Tesseract in and it sort of works. But it didn't quite work. And he's just said it didn't. Tony Stark says it didn't work at the beginning of Iron Man. And it's like, oh, okay. And then you realise, oh, the Tesseract was supposed to go in that. Once the Tesseract was in that, it would have created unlimited free power. And let's face it, then you see that bit in Iron Man 2 where it says, I don't have the technology to do this, Tony. You do. And then it all clicks together. If you think about it, see what I mean? Now, and then he creates the plans for the Stark Expo, which are basically a floor plan of how to create the new element. And Tony sees it, basically does it, and creates the new element. That is actually an element that is coming out of the Tesseract. It's a new element from the Tesseract that keeps Tony alive. Let alone the Palladium. The Palladium reactor is basically another part of the Tesseract idea. The Tesseract keeps Tony Stark, has kept Tony Stark alive. I think I would call this video Tony Stark owes the Tesseract his life. Owes his life to the Tesseract. Yeah, that's it. So you see what I mean? You see where I'm coming with this? If Howard Stark didn't pick up the Tesseract and go, oh, yeah, I can see what to do with this, we would not have Tony Stark would not be alive. Howard Stark's son would be dead at the beginning of Iron Man, the original Iron Man. He basically, the 10 rings would have caught him and he wouldn't have been able to get out. It'd be like he'd probably make the missiles and then get killed. But this is it. It's so okay. What is most interesting though? If you think about where the Tesseract is during Howard Stark's lifetime, it's with him until his death. Tony Stark's grieving. Yeah, fine. The arc reactor. It's actually no. It's not in the arc reactor. It's designed to go in the arc reactor. I think they tried it and it didn't work. But the arc reactor is there. Tony knows how to make one. He miniaturizes it, uses palladium, which they use in the arc reactor at the beginning of Iron Man, the original Iron Man, at his home in Miami. And then his father says, yeah, okay, you can do this better than this. And let's face it, Howard Stark was on the verge of a breakthrough because of the Tesseract. It was his intelligence to analyze what data was coming out of the Tesseract, but that's what I think was going on. So thank you guys for watching. This was a short video, but tell me, am I wrong? Am I going up a wrong tree here? Because I don't think I am. Now stay tuned for the next video. The next video will explain how Jarvis is more important than you might think to the MCU. Now, I know he turns his vision. Yeah. We know that. But I think Jarvis was not made by Tony Stark. And I'll tell you why in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like the videos, tell me what you think in the comments. That is very important. I want to hear your guys' opinion. Please tell me, and goodbye.